You know that eerie calm right before kickoff in January? Like the whole bay is holding its breath? That's the vibe today, because a few things behind the scenes could tilt Sunday before most people even clock it. One physical detail decides who actually suits up. One coaching chess match might be the only way we survive a straight-up speed disadvantage. One locker room message is trying to settle the young guys before the loudest kind of chaos this lead can throw at you. And there's a plan B nobody wants to see, but it could end up shaping everything. Before we get rolling, hit like, subscribe, and drop your take in the comments, because I can already tell this is going to split the faithful. January doesn't start with kickoff. It starts with the injury report. When you've got 7 49ers listed as questionable, the game starts bending before the first step. It's not just who's hurt, it's who forces you to rearrange the board. Jacob Cowing, hamstring. Luke Gifford, quad. Renardo Green, ankle. Ricky Pearsall, knee, ankle. Keon White, groin, hamstring. Trent Williams, hamstring. D. Winters, ankle. 7 names across multiple units. Brock Purdy's protection, depth in the secondary, the rotation up front, even special teams work. Kyle Shanahan got asked if a list that long could push them into more than the usual practice squad elevations, and he didn't dodge it. Possibly. And remember, you're only allowed 2 elevations, so if you need more than that, you'd have to make a roster move. Now, there's one reason to exhale a little. Trent Williams has been limited in practice all week, and unlike last week, it feels like he's trending toward giving it a real shot. If he plays, you're not just getting a left tackle back, you're getting your playbook back. The run menu changes, the pocket changes, and you're not forced to keep tight ends and backs in to protect as often. That's the difference between hang on and punt and actually driving the field. But the outlook is a lot less encouraging for Pearsall. He hasn't practiced the last 2 weeks after aggravating a prior PCL issue, and that makes his chances Sunday feel slim. If he's out, Philly can squeeze spacing and get more aggressive with bodies near the line. And then you get the late surprise. Green added after. In Shanahan's words, he zinged his foot in practice. Those last-minute adds, that's what turns warm-ups into a coin flip. But one strategic edge the Niners do have is an extra day of rest. After 3 games in 13 days, ending with that Saturday night loss to Seattle, San Francisco finally got back to a normal routine. Shanahan said Wednesday felt like coming off a bye. In January, fresh legs matter. But rest only helps if those question marks become active, because this is win or go home. And if we're talking about how you steal this game, it's simple and brutal. If this turns into a track meet, Philly has the edge. The Niners have to win it with scheme. That's why this matchup is so fascinating. Shanahan versus Vic Fangio. And Robert Saleh trying to patch a defense that's been taking injury punches all year. Every decision is basically a playoff bet, and every mistake gets amplified by that crowd. Offensively, Shanahan hunts weak spots. Adoree Jackson and safety Reed Blankenship are the vulnerable starters, and those are the matchups Purdy can test on key conversions. 3rd and long, red zone moments, the snaps where you need a clean throw and a clean catch. Fangio can counter by pulling Jackson and inserting linebacker Jahad Campbell to help shut down the run, especially if he feels like the Niners don't have enough receiver speed to punish heavier personnel. With Pearsall not practicing, you can see why Philly would feel comfortable doing that. Which brings us right back to Trent. If he's out there, the menu opens. Against Seattle, Shanahan had to devote extra resources to pass protection to help Austin Pleasance. With Williams, more eligible receivers can actually get into routes. And that's where Shanahan can manufacture chunk plays instead of just surviving. You'll also see the Niners trying to get back to what they love, running wide left, living in that comfort zone, making linebackers run sideways. Philly gets Nakobe Dean back, and they're solid defending wide runs and covering tight ends. But inside runs, that's where they can be softer. And here's the part that makes people nervous. Purdy might have to be aggressive with his legs. Not reckless, decisive. If Philly is flying to the ball, those scrambles and keeps can be your best answer. Protection up the middle matters too, because Jalen Carter has been wrecking games lately. The Niners will need to scheme around him the way they've done against elite interior rushers in the past. And if the interior starts leaking anyway, controlled rollouts might be the pressure valve. Purdy rolled right and hit George Kittle for 20 last week, and you might need more of that against this front. Christian McCaffrey is part of the answer too, especially as a receiver. The Eagles have been near the bottom of the league in receiving yards allowed to running backs, and Shanahan will absolutely try to turn CMC into a mismatch if Fangio starts experimenting with personnel. A couple quick checkdowns can turn into a chain-moving drive if you block it right. Simple plays that turn into something bigger. That's how you survive. No, flip it. Defense on the field. This is where the fear starts creeping in. Due to injuries, Eric Kendricks is expected to start at middle linebacker. He's experienced, he knows angles. But speed is the issue, and Jalen Hurts in the postseason tends to crank it up. Dallas Goedert against a banged-up linebacker/safety group is the kind of matchup that can quietly wreck you on third down. Add in another big piece. The Eagles get All-Pro Lane Johnson back. They're 8-2 with him, 3-4 without. Hurts' quarterback rating goes up 14 points when Johnson is in. Think about that for a second. When that right side is stable, the whole offense plays faster. And your pass rush has to actually win, not just almost win. And if you're not winning up front, you're living in trouble, because Philly can lean on the run game and keep you on the field. And even if Saquon Barkley hasn't had his best year, he's been effective lately, averaging 105 rushing yards per game over his last 4. We just watched Seattle backs get 4.6 yards before contact. If Barkley and Hurts are getting downhill before you can set the edge, this game can slip away in chunks. That's why the mental side matters. Nobody in that locker room is pretending this is easy. They know the setting, the stakes, the noise, and they're not talking like a team hoping to survive. They're talking like a team ready to swing, especially with young players getting thrown into big roles and walking into Philly for the first time. Kyle Juszczyk said it comes down to execution. Know your assignment, play physical, communicate. One missed detail in that stadium becomes a sack, a turnover, or a wasted drive. Purdy said, "You can watch film all you want, but you won't truly know until you get there and feel it." The staff has been preparing the young guys, but it still comes down to staying locked in for 4 quarters, snap after snap. The numbers are interesting. The Niners offense finished top 10 in total yards and scoring, while the Eagles defense is top 5 in points allowed. Strength versus strength. The brutal context is San Francisco is doing it while battered, which is why the betting line has Philly favored by 5. Inside the building, that number is fuel. Now, there's one more layer nobody wants to sit with. Philly carries a memory for this team. 2022, the NFC Championship. Purdy gets knocked out and the season ends without a real chance to fight back. You don't walk into this wild card without that film flashing in your mind. The hope is Brock plays the entire game. Be honest, behind this line against that rush, the risk is real. And if Purdy starts taking shots, every hit is going to make the faithful hold their breath. That's where the plan B comes in. Mac Jones. Nobody is asking to see him, but he's not just an emergency body. When Purdy missed 8 games with turf toe, Jones kept the season alive. 5-3 as a starter, nearly 70% completions, 2,151 yards, 13 TDs, and 6 picks. Without him, it's hard to believe the Niners are even here. There's been plenty of talk about whether the 49ers could trade Jones this offseason since he is under contract for another year. Backup quarterbacks with real starting reps have value. But if the Niners have to rely on him Sunday in Philadelphia, even briefly, it changes the conversation. It's no longer, could you move him? It becomes, can you afford to? Purdy is the guy when he's healthy. That's not the debate. But he's also taken tough injury breaks, and it reinforces the hardest NFL reality. You don't make a playoff run without a real contingency plan. Shanahan doesn't find quarterbacks who can win for him easily. It's rare, and Jones has shown he can. So if Mac never sees the field, great. But if he does and he plays well, the entire offseason storyline shifts instantly. What feels like a trade asset today starts looking like insurance you're terrified to lose. So I'll ask you, faithful, how far can this team really go in these conditions? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and ride this postseason with the faithful. Niner Gang, let's hear it.